Oh my God, Steve, he's enormous. He looks like he's 20 years old, Steve.
Funny.
I love when Mitchell comes for a visit. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our weekly Percolator virtual breakfast meeting. Today is Friday, February 19th, and once again, we're in the middle of a blizzard.
Mhm.
So February's been a very wintry month this year. So I just wanted to welcome you all. Al?
Yeah, official start, Alexis. We ring a little bell only for starters.
Yay! It makes us all so happy. We Alexis, we used, when we met in person, we were at the All Seasons Diner in Eatontown every Friday morning, and Al hosted those meetings, and he always rang the bell to get everybody's attention so we would take our seats and actually listen. And it worked. And it still works.
Great.
Thank you, Al. So today's Perk, we have a topic that every single person in this room needs to hear about. Jim Roth from Rock Solid Tech Support is going to be talking about how to get a better connection to the internet so we don't drop all those calls all the time. So Jim, teach us how to stay in our meetings with clarity, please.
All right, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Jim, just a question. You're going to tell us where to find the mute button?
We could do that, yes. Bottom left, and everybody should mute. I'll go on mute, and that'll be the end of the meeting. Everybody else should mute. Anyway, so Jim Roth, Rock Solid Tech Support. I do computer and network support, repairs and troubleshooting for Windows and Mac. I've been doing computer tech support in some form or another since 1985. Yeah, I know, I look like I'm less, but anyway, one of the most frequent complaints that I get, people having trouble with their internet connection. They'll be on a Zoom call, they'll get people telling them that their audio got choppy, or the video froze up for a split second or longer. Sometimes they're dropping calls altogether. Other problems with internet connectivity, disconnecting from their printer, stuff like that. Hi, Gilda. Anyway, yes, that's what we were on the phone about yesterday. Let's see, there's a number of things that can cause this, but I'm going to give you 3 very simple tips that you guys can do on your own, even before calling me or Mitali or Russ McKeever or whoever else, Carrie's crew over there. There's a number of us online that can help you with these tech support issues, but there are a few things that you can do on your own as a preliminary step. So let's get right into it. One of the first things that people have problems with, they'll tell me that they're having problems with their internet, and it turns out to be sort of the first step of their internet connection, that being their Wi-Fi connection between their laptop and their home router. There's a number of things that can cause problems with the Wi-Fi connection. You can have certainly a weak connection back to your router. Maybe the router's too far away. Maybe there's a lot of congestion, that is radio frequency congestion in your environment. In other words, I've seen this frequently enough when people live in an apartment complex, in a townhouse complex. I'm over here in Ocean Grove, where the houses are so close to each other, I can open a window and touch the next house. When you're that close to one another, office complexes, also another big issue. When you're that close to one another and everybody's got their own Wi-Fi, the routers can actually compete with each other, almost like having too many radio stations too close by. With a radio station, you might have trouble tuning one station, and I don't know, nobody's listening to radio anymore. Maybe that's not a good example.
Hey, Jim, how about using a microwave?
Well, actually, I was going to touch on that, because there's all sorts of devices, in your environment that could potentially affect your Wi-Fi signal. You just mentioned a microwave oven. Let's take a little step back. There are 2 frequency bands in the United States that are used for Wi-Fi. There's a 2.4 gigahertz band and there's a 5 gigahertz band. I know some of your eyes are immediately glazing over as I start talking gigahertz. It has to do with the frequency. You can think of this like AM and FM. AM was the older technology. It's been around forever. AM radio stations have tremendously long distance range, but they don't sound as good as FM. FM sounds a whole bunch better. It's a cleaner signal. It's a higher frequency if you never really thought about that. It's broadcast on a higher radio frequency than AM. So the difference in frequencies has some impact in the amount of information that, whether it be Wi-Fi or in the case of audio, your radio stations can carry. The impact manifests itself in terms of how fast the connection is. They also have some impact on, I don't want to get into that yet, never mind. The 2.4 gigahertz band it's an older band. It has been an unlicensed band for many, many different devices. A lot of your old landline cordless phones were all 2.4 gigahertz. Actually, before that, there were 900. A lot of the newer ones, if you still have a landline cordless phone, are in the 5 gigahertz band, and they tend to work better. But cordless phones, very commonly, 2.4 gigahertz. Baby monitors, a lot of wireless security cameras. And you mentioned it earlier, that microwave oven. Guess what band that thing is broadcasting radio waves inside the box, inside the microwave oven, to heat up your coffee or your tea or whatever it is that you're heating up. It's roughly 2.4 gigahertz. And I'm bringing all of this up because all of these devices, if they're in close proximity to your router, less so to your laptop or your phone, but in particular to your router, they could cause enough interference that the router is going to try and reset the radio and switch to a cleaner channel within the band. This makes a difference because every time the router goes and resets and tries to find a cleaner signal, cleaner band or channel, it disconnects your internet for a brief period. It disconnects your Wi-Fi. It might be 10 seconds, it might be 30. But if you're frequently having problems with your Wi-Fi disconnecting, that's something to think about. You know, I've gotten calls where somebody's telling me that their Wi-Fi is disconnecting them all the time. And I asked them, where's the router? And they escort me into the kitchen. And there's the router on the counter right next to the microwave oven. And every time somebody goes and reheats their coffee, somebody else is losing their internet connection in the household. Very simple fix. Let's move the router to someplace else. There's usually plenty of places within the house that we can move the router. Anyway, besides that kind of thing, there are so many things that could cause Wi-Fi problems. There's one very, very simple test and possibly a fix to diagnose that, and that is use an internet connection. You know, a typical use an Ethernet cable. Connect your laptop with one end, connect the other end into the router. If you don't have a long enough cable, this one's only what, 4 or 5 feet. They make them really long. I've got a box full of these things, including an 80-footer. So if anybody really has a long distance that they need to test out, plug your laptop into in via Ethernet, and don't use Wi-Fi for the duration of a few Zoom calls. And if it's substantially better, you've got your answer. You know, this is a typical router. There's a bunch of Ethernet ports on the back. The yellow one's a special one that's going to be connected to your cable modem or your Fios box. But all the rest of these are for all of your various devices, whether it be a desktop computer or a laptop computer. Even most laptop computers have, where is it here? Over there, an Ethernet plug that can accept one of these cables. So try that out, and if that helps your situation, then that definitely would point to Wi-Fi problems, and that's something that we can. There's a number of ways to fix the Wi-Fi. We don't have to completely abandon Wi-Fi. This is really meant as a test. If there are other things that we have to do with your router, or maybe even replace your router, in rare cases, maybe replace an older laptop. Had a discussion with somebody about that just yesterday. A lot of older laptops don't support. They don't support that 5 gigahertz band. The 2.4 gigahertz band is much more troublesome. So that's why I went into that whole thing with the different bands. The Wi-Fi problems are only one thing that could cause performance issues with your internet connection, reliability issues with your Zoom connections. Another thing that you should probably check out is how hard your computer's working. This is probably a good time for me to share the screen. Therese, if I can do that.
Oh yeah, let me make you a co-host. Hold on. I gotta find your name.
And while you're doing that, let's see. There we go.
Where are you?
Sorry, everybody. Should have had that a little bit more prepared. Anyway, while you're getting that set up, something happened. Okay. Share screen. There it is. If you're seeing this, I'm trying to display the Windows Task Manager. Everybody seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Windows Task Manager is a program that will allow me to see all of the programs that I've got running on the computer at the moment. It'll show me, among other things, how hard the computer's CPU, the main processor inside the computer, is working, how much memory is taken up, how hard the disk drive, whether it be a hard disk drive or a solid state drive, how hard that's working. But notably, the CPU column, we can actually sort by CPU utilization. And look at that, my Zoom meeting is taking up 25% of the computer's processing power right now. That's a good tell. If I were to look at this on somebody else's computer and find that the CPU column is pegged at nearly 80, 90, frequently hitting 100%, that's telling me that that computer is working really hard. There's something going on there, whether it's an older computer that just can't keep up with the demands of everything that you're throwing at it, or let's say you've got something running on the program or on the computer that is just taking up a lot of processing power. It's a clue. It's something for us to look at. There's another tab. Oh, incidentally, if you've never used the Windows Task Manager before, you can switch to it even right now. You hold down the Control Alternate. This is on Windows. Hold down the Control and Alternate keys. Tap the Delete key. You'll see a menu show up on the screen. One of the options is Task Manager, and you can get this same screen up on your computer. If you don't remember how and you want to do this at some later time, just shoot me a text or something. I'll talk you through it. Pretty trivial effort, but there's other tabs here.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
quick question. What's the Mac equivalent? Does Mac have something similar?
Yes, there is, I believe it's called Activity Monitor. And if you go under Use Finder, go under Applications, or maybe it's under Utilities, I believe it's called. Activity Monitor is what you're looking for. Very similar kind of functionality. It'll show you what programs are running, all the stuff that's running in the background. I believe you can sort by the name of the process, or by CPU utilization, or by memory consumption, or all that kind of stuff. Speaking of memory consumption, I wanted to mention this. A number of you are Google Chrome users. It's a great browser. You notice on my screen, I prefer to use Firefox, but that's a personal preference. I bring up Google Chrome because it tends to be a memory hog. And if you're one of those people that likes keeping, a dozen tabs open all at the same time, you can fire up this Windows Task Manager and you can see that it's taken up a whole bunch of memory and might be one of the things that's slowing down your computer. So Again, this is just another investigative tool. Let me see if I can stop sharing. We're going to move on to some other stuff here. Other things to talk about. All right, so we talked about potential Wi-Fi problems. We talked about potential computer performance problems. One last major category to talk about before we do a little bit of Q&A. You can test the speed of your internet connection. It could very well be that the whole problem is upstream of what you've got, well, right in front of you on, on your laptop or computer, or within the household in terms of your local area network, that being your router and the Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection that you have. It could be upstream of that. Most frequently, I don't see Jim Brickle on the line here right now. He's the fellow from Comcast that was here, last week or the week before. Yeah. But anyway, I don't mean to dump on Comcast, but well, quite frankly, one of the most frequent calls that I get is from cable customers having trouble with their internet connection. In that case, very likely it's the cable company's infrastructure. I don't find this nearly as frequently with Verizon's Fios. It's a very different design to the network as it goes through the community. Cable tends to be a whole bunch more susceptible to weather problems, congestion on the community network connection just from peak usage. But you can test for some of these things. There are two websites that I like to use to test for these things. One of them is called Speedtest.net, and let me try and share my screen again. I've got, where is it here? You know about that one. Let's switch over to here. So this is speedtest.net. I ran a speed test on my own internet connection a little while ago. I'm paying with Verizon for a 75 megabit per second download speed and 25 megabit per second upload speed. And they're actually exceeding what I'm paying for, which was very generous of them. I'll frequently see that whatever you're paying for from Verizon, you're getting very nearly exactly what you're paying for, or maybe even a little bit more. The cable companies, it tends to differ depending on time of day. Peak usage, your bandwidth, the performance that you're going to get from running this test on speedtest.net could be markedly different. I'm remembering a few weeks ago, I went to a residence in Shark River Hills. They've got, is it Cablevision maybe? Optimum? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, they are paying for the highest tier of performance from their cable provider. I think it's either 300 or 1,000, 1 gigabit network connection. And the testing that we did on theirs ranged from, at best, 40 instead of the 300 or 1,000. At worst, it went down to 20. And on the upload speeds, in other words, data coming from your computer and going out to the internet, it went down as low as 5. We ran 6 different tests, and it was a range just all over the place. The mom in the household was telling me that they're getting dropped off of Zoom calls all the time. Sonny boy calling into his school classes via Zoom. He's getting disconnects. We looked at that. We ran the test a whole bunch of times. We saw how choppy the internet connection was, and I don't mean to be a salesman for Verizon, but that's what they're switching to because they just need something stable there. And they had called the cable company a number of times and they just couldn't resolve the problem. So anyway, those are among the things that that I would suggest taking a look at. Just trying to see if I've got any more notes about. Nope, that's pretty much it. So I can open it up to Q&A.
Jim, you want to cover if there is no alternate service provider, because not everywhere Verizon has footprint.
Look, if the problem is the cable company and you got no alternative, there's not a lot of alternatives. One of the things that I might try doing in that case, I might try using a cell phone hotspot, whether it be from my own cell phone or buying one of those dedicated hotspot devices. It looks like a tiny little router that's actually a cell phone and router built into one little box. You can't use it to make phone calls, but regardless, it gets your devices, your wireless devices onto the internet. Might be a good backup thing to have in place. You know, certainly if I was in the midst of this call with you guys and suddenly my internet went down, I'd fire up the hotspot on my cell phone and I would still have some sort of internet connection. Natalia,
Well,
don't you have anything else?
Verizon does have exclusive hotspot devices.
Right. All right. So that's the kind of thing that I was just mentioning with Verizon has them, T-Mobile, Sprint, who else is out there? AT&T. They've all got them. Matali, $40 a month. Sound about right? Something like that. So, you know, not a horribly expensive thing to have in your back pocket. Look, if it's just for you, then learn how to use the hotspot on your phone. You know, it's just another fail-safe, just in case something goes wrong with your internet connection. Any other comments, questions?
I saw a question from Erika about what is a good time to switch your computer and what CPU percentage. If you're not doing anything and your CPU has a utility of 80 plus % CPU and memory, it's good time you go either upgrade your memory or go get the new computer that you have always wanted. But in today's day and age, I would say what, 8 gigs memory is a minimum requirement because
yeah, I usually tell people, look, you're buying a new computer, aim for 8 gigs. You've got an older computer, let's upgrade it to at least 8 gigs. If it's still a candidate for upgrading, maybe it's just too old to be worthwhile. You take a look at, this is another tab on my my task manager, and it's showing I've got 32 gigs in this little laptop. That's probably overkill. I did it just because I wanted to see, is it going to make any difference? And you know what? It wasn't a substantial difference over 16. So save your money. It might be a little bit different if I was doing, I don't know, some sort of heavy duty data crunching. But anyway, just another comment about memory utilization. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Jim, I have a quick question.
Craig just put a question in the chat.
Ann, was that you that chimed in? No, who just said I have a quick question?
No,
I see it, Tom.
Craig has a question. Craig,
Yeah, I put it in the chat. I just was curious when you showed the 80 megabyte download
right
speed. Are you on an Ethernet or Wi-Fi?
This is on Wi-Fi. So
really good.
What that's telling me is that in my case, Wi-Fi is not the bottleneck to my Ethernet or to my internet performance. The slowest link for me is a fairly fast Verizon connection. You know, I've tested the Wi-Fi connection. I've got some substantial transfers that I'll do between my laptop and a home theater PC, recorded video, and I think I'm seeing, I don't know, it's several times faster than my internet connection. So the Wi-Fi is not the bottleneck here.
Cool.
And I think you're next.
Yeah, Ann, I think you had a question.
Unmute.
And you're on mute.
Sorry. If you have multi-levels in your house, what's the best level to have the router on?
Right in the middle of the house. Try and put it in the middle of the house. You know, I've certainly, Ocean Grove, another great example. There's a bunch of big old Victorians around here. You know, sometimes the router is on the first floor and it's sort of stuck there because that's where the connection is. A mesh network is a great solution to that. I've talked about that before, where we set up either a mesh network or, you know, you can get Wi-Fi extenders. I prefer the technology behind the mesh networks. but this is basically more than one device throughout the premise that is functioning as a multi-location router. Really does a wonderful job spreading the internet connection throughout the entire location. I set up a mesh network for one of the big bed and breakfasts over here in Ocean Grove. Square footage, no, I can't even guess about square footage, just 30 some odd rooms. And we put a mesh network with 4 nodes throughout the place, and it's got, you know, solid coverage throughout the entire, I think 3 or 4 floors, just with 4 devices. So that's another option. Again, once we've identified that there are Wi-Fi problems, give a shout to me or one of the other tech service providers, and we can advise you on that. I think at that point you probably want some experienced eyes on the problem.
Thank you.
Who else?
Jim, I had a
Tom.
question. First of all, great presentation. We could probably keep you on here for like an hour or more. And I need to set up a one-on-one with you myself. Just quickly, mesh network. Do you have a preference in terms of what types? There's a lot of them out there.
There are many of them out there, and you know, at the low end, it's really a price performance game, or it's really a price game. Once you get into the mid range and higher, I strongly prefer Netgear's Orbi products, and the reason for that, they have a tri-band system where they use 3 radios. There's a 2.4 gigahertz radio. That's the band that's susceptible to a lot of interference issues. There's a 5 gigahertz radio, should give you a whole bunch better connections. But interestingly, they're the only ones that I'm aware of that use a dedicated 5 gigahertz radio. In other words, a third radio in each of the devices to talk between the devices. Because it's a 5 gigahertz radio, it's not nearly as susceptible to interference from other things in the environment, you know, the whole microwave problem or baby monitors or too many networks in the area. So I find that the mid-range or better Netgear Orbi mesh network is among the best out there. You know, there's another solution to the connection problems between mesh network devices. Many of them allow you to wire up Ethernet between each of the devices. They don't have to be completely wireless, but you know, that's really the ultimate connection between the mesh network. There's other devices out there. You know, a lot of them are probably working just great. I was at a house the other day that has Eero throughout the whole house. Eero is that Google or is that Amazon? I'm trying to remember. But regardless, that seemed to work very well for them. It might be a little bit different in a really congested environment like a townhouse or or an apartment complex, but it's working for them.
So Jim, this is my actual question. This is actually very timely because my daughter and I got into a rather heated discussion last night.
She's wrong.
Huh?
She's wrong.
Well, she'll look back on it years from now as a parenting moment. But anyway, so I had access points installed in the house, 2 upstairs in the attic at each end of the house. Anyway, long story short, last night she was trying to download something, watch some podcast, and she kept complaining that in her room, in her bedroom on the 3rd floor, because we have a basement, she can't get download speed, or she can't get it. So these are great tests. I'm going to do all these tests today with her. But why would she be the only person that can't seem to get good Wi-Fi connection in her bedroom? And is that real, or is it just dementia from a 17-year-old high school senior?
I didn't even mention it, and I should have gone into this earlier when we were talking about Wi-Fi. There are a lot of great tools out there to test for Wi-Fi signal strength and to get a pretty good idea of what neighboring competitive networks are in the same band. I'm looking at a tool on my Android phone. It's called Wi-Fi Analyzer, and it actually shows me these graphs, these parabolic curves, showing me the signal strength of all of the different Wi-Fi networks in my area that the phone can receive. You can see the strongest thing there. You probably can't read it, but the strongest one there is my own router, The next strongest one is my immediate neighbor has his own Wi-Fi. So it gives you an indication of that. And all of the other stuff that is weaker down in the bottom there are all of my neighbors' Wi-Fi networks. If I were to fire up this same program in an apartment complex or in an office complex, you would see the various signals are all competing with one another and stepping on one another. Generally the Wi-Fi electronics can sort that out, but sometimes not. A tool like this is a great mechanism to try and diagnose Wi-Fi problems. This is Wi-Fi Analyzer. I know there's similar things on iPhone. There's similar programs that you can get for your computer. Gives you a little bit more information than just searching for Wi-Fi networks via however you would normally connect to Wi-Fi. Anybody else?
And what's the
Yeah, I want to add to what Jim said with as far as teenagers go, no speed is good enough for them. And like he said, you use the Wi-Fi analyzer to see, but sometimes what happens is if you have houses which are close to each other and the Wi-Fi signals are interfering, wherever they cross, it is black spot where signal strength is the lowest, because at that point the signal is really, one is cutting across the other. Another thing to factor to think about is what is the structure of your house frame. If it is wood, then I don't think it's much to worry about, but if it is steel, there will be a lot of interference.
Jim, if I may, there's some questions in the chat that we kind
Yeah,
of.
and I was just seeing there's 34 things in the chat right now that I haven't gotten to.
And
Jim, that
also,
Wi-Fi analyzer you're talking about, I'm in the Google Play Store now. There's like 7 different ones with the same name. What's the icon on the one you use?
Let's find that. Hold on a second. On the bottom, I don't know if you can see that.
a little blurry.
All right, let me get you the publisher's name. Give me a few minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead. Other questions?
we're starting to get short on time, so
Okay.
If we want to just throw out 1 or 2 more questions, so
And I'll tell you what, folks, if you want to put your questions in the chat and maybe with your phone number, I'll text you or we'll talk or however you want to do it.
One person asked what is the percentage of residential versus commercial of your services, Jim?
I would say it's probably 75% commercial. Perfectly happy helping out residential and small business home office situations.
Somebody said, Jim did that advice for my house. We went mesh. Our FiOS hit close to 100 gigabits. We just had too many things trying to connect.
Yep.
Okay, that's a comment, I guess. That's not a question.
Erika had a question at some point too. Erika, you want to jump in with your question and then we'll wrap it up.
I thought we answered Erika's question. It's about the gigabyte.
Yeah, it was another question. So it was a follow-up to that, Natalie, about, how do you increase your gigabytes in your computer?
Well, you can increase the memory. If the computer has 2 gigabytes, we add more memory.
Is that hardware or software?
Hardware.
That's
right,
hardware. It's going to take a screwdriver and
okay, that's what I wanted.
A little bit of experience.
Great, thank you.
The Wi-Fi analyzer that I use is put out by Farproc, Farproc, and that's on Android.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. We could do like what someone said, a whole hour on this.
Okay, I will download the chat and I'll get back to you guys as I can with your about your questions.
Excellent. And also, I just want to know that whenever I plug into someone's Wi-Fi, I see 2.4 and I see 5, and I always choose 5 because I know it's better. I didn't know the reason, but I just knew 5 was better. So thank you for explaining that.
There's another hour I could talk about that, but
yeah, that's a whole different discussion.
All right. I also wanted to thank Center State Healthcare System for sponsoring this perk this morning. And we're going to get to our around the room business introductions next.